Hello, I'm William Gallagher. This is 58 Keys Writing Workshop. I tell you why I do something, or in this case, what I think about something, and then you, please disagree with me in the comments below. There is no other point of me yapping away at you if you don't yap back. Writer to writer, having a chat about a writerly thing for it. This time, stealing ideas. Kind of hard to imagine there's a lot of disagreement on this one. Stealing ideas, bad. There you go. Thank you very much for watching. Comment. There are degrees of this, and there are things that make certain writers, particularly new writers, panic, certain things that I don't think should, but let's go through the list of this, because stealing is a very strong word, isn't it? How about we do inspired by instead? Get that one quite a lot. Inspired by something you've read, something you've watched. Okay. I mean, there are things where I've thought, this is awful, how would I have done it differently? And that sends me off onto something else. And there have been other ideas where I've thought, I like this. What is it that I like about it? What does it mean to me, and why does it matter to me? What is it that I can do to explore that for myself? Explore that in my writing. Okay, that it still feels a bit not as good as just coming up with something yourself, but can any of us ever truly come up with something totally new? Not sure, but okay. Inspired by, let's just park that for a bit. Then how about a homage to? Yeah, right. Nothing wrong with giving acknowledgement and praise and credit to something that's well inspired you, but homage is really tricky, because really so often it can mean let's just do the same thing again. I mean, yeah, I'm actually thinking of Star Wars, The Force Awakens. This is the first film after years. It's like, I get mixed up in the trilogy. Wasn't it the first of the last trilogy that began with, yeah, whatever, Force Awakens, go to the cinema, and I'm watching this away, and I'm thinking, it's a bit reminiscent of the first film, isn't it? And this is a lot reminiscent. And I'm thinking, okay, Star Wars always had a harmonic to it, and any kind of trilogy often has similar things going through it. So 3 trilogies, 9 films. No, this is the same as the first film. I actually distinctly remember, how many years ago is that film now? But I remember being in the cinema thinking, well, at least they can't do the trench run thing, the famous ending of, oh, they're doing the trench run thing. Okay, the film was pointless waste of time, and I regret the hours I spent watching it because there was nothing new there. I liked Rey, the new character, but she didn't get to do anything we hadn't already seen. So homage, no, actually, that's J.J. Abrams, isn't it? That's Star Wars. And then there's Star Trek Into Darkness. Okay. Homage is really stretching it now. Because, all right, this is going off the point, but Star Trek Into Darkness, can't remember the year it came out, but it was really a remake of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And I mean this to the extent that I'm sitting there in the cinema, and I've enjoyed the first one so much, I've actually taken an afternoon off to go see an earlier aft. Yeah, I choked on my Maltesers, I remember that. There were 3 guys dressed as Klingons behind me, and the rest of the auditorium was empty. I felt a little bit scared. But there I am thinking, okay, it's familiar. By 2/3 of the way through, I was actually pointing at the screen and cue Spock, and Spock would come in, and I'd mouth his dialogue before he said it. That was not homage, that was just crap, really. Okay, so homage, I'm not a fan of that either. I think you've picked up on that. What else is there? There's got to be something in between. The references, okay, references to other stories, allusions, things you've liked. I kind of don't have a problem with that, as long as they don't get in the way. I love comedy where, the Barbie film, for example, I loved that film, and you've got to read the script, it's great. But for whatever reason, I've never even seen a Barbie doll in real life. I think certainly never had one. Pretty sure I never saw one in real life. But all the way through the film, I'm having such a good time watching it. I am a little bit unconscious that there are 1,000 other jokes going by that I would get if I'd ever had a Barbie doll. But none of them stopped me. None of them made me think, that's a joke I'm not getting. They flew by. I mean, partly just the speed of how many there were. And there were so many that I did get as a newcomer to that world, that it was great. Okay, you felt like there was more to this film. You were seeing such a good thing, and yet it was deeper, it was richer than you expected from a film about adult. That was great. When you have the opposite, when it's right, that's a gag I'd get if I'd seen episode 4 of something or whatever, then I don't like that. Something that throws you out. A reference that throws you out the story, bad. A reference that keeps you in the story, but is great if you get it. I mean, isn't it like the stuff you have with certain types of stories, particularly film and TV, that are meant to be on a couple of levels? The kids will enjoy it one way, the adults will enjoy it with another. When the kids don't see that there's an adult thing and the adults don't have to see that there's a kids thing, tremendous. So references, okay, that doesn't feel like theft at all. This is what feels like theft. When someone appears to steal your idea, and I wasn't going to say appears there, but it slipped in because I'm so adamant about this. You got to say this, it is possible to have once, I'm trying to think of a way to say this without revealing names. I wrote a script that I wanted to pitch to a particular TV show, and you were one of the writers on it. When I asked her advice, and she gave me a ton of advice, which boiled down to basically, yeah, not for that show, I think, something like that. A year later, 18 months, she did the reverse. She sent me, it wasn't a script then, I can't have been a script then, it would have been a quite detailed story outline, and she sent it to me because she somehow remembered that I knew the kind of world that story was set in. And yeah, I did. It was my world from my story. And I'll get to why I wasn't initially startled by that, but also it was pretty much my characters, and every situation in the plot was exactly the same as mine. I mean, if you're gonna nick an idea, it's pretty bloody stupid to ask advice from the person you're nicking it from. I gave her as bad advice as I possibly could, and actually nothing ever happened of it. It didn't get made, so does that make me feel better? Not 100% sure. Still have to work with that person later. Okay. Put that out of your mind, William. It can happen. Okay, I think that was a stupid example, a dumb example. Generally speaking, if you write something good, well, actually, you know this, with books or films, I realize I've veered into films there, but this applies to books as well. You cannot copyright an idea, but there's a reason for that. And it's the execution of the idea that matters. It's the writing that matters. So when someone comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, this is a great idea. That's a great idea. I'll give you the idea, you write it, we'll split them, that kind of nonsense." And the idea is like, this is a detective, right? And she's got a partner that's a wolf. Okay, I haven't not immediately grabbed by that, but you go off and write it and we'll see. Okay. Ideas like that, the detective and the wolf, are worthless. It's the final version, it's the written thing that matters, and it has to be that way, because otherwise I could go around thinking, right, detective with a wolf, detective with a cat. I could just do a list of all of these and then file them somewhere and sue everybody passing if they ever mention a wolf and a detective in the same sentence. Okay. I offer that when you are able to come up with a great idea, and this is the crucial part, you are able to write it and you have written a book, a manuscript or a script, a screenplay, anything, then what matters is you as well as your writing. Generally speaking, you're not just selling a piece of writing, you're kind of selling yourself. And someone who can write a great idea and write it well will be wanted. So you're like a package deal. So somebody looking at that thinking, well, I don't like his writing, but I like his writing. I don't like him or her, but I think I can make millions out of this. It's not that it can't happen, just the odds are, writers are not that expensive. You can just hire a couple of them and use them. So here's someone who's good. You'll get hired, it'll get written, it'll get published, whatever it is. Okay. This is the third point, and actually, third point, like I made 8 points, but this is also actually the first point that was on my mind when I wanted to talk to you about this at all, because I have lately been in multiple conversations, and over the years I've seen many conversations where a new writer, it's always a new writer, is complaining. I was going to say bitching there, that seems a bit harsh. Some of it was bitchy, some of it was just affront, saying that their idea has been stolen. That here is this major motion picture, here is this fabulous Booker Prize winning novel, and it's theirs. It's not theirs, it's not the other person, it's theirs, kind of thing. Pretty much certain that the answer is no. It's just, new writers particularly, again, this is always a new writer. I don't know what it is and how long it takes you to get her out of this, but it's this concept that your idea is brand new and that no one else can have it because you thought of it. It's usually that they haven't written it, not always, but usually they haven't written it either. So that's just what was stolen. I don't know. There's this fact that actually ideas are kind of, well, the phrase is that they're in the air. I think some of it's a bit obvious right now. If you wanted to write a story about, for example, the fall of democracy anywhere, I think there might be a few other writers going down the same line. There always is. And sometimes it's startling. I mean, since I mentioned film, and I'm trying to remember some examples, there's a couple of Wyatt Earp films, Gunfight at the OK Corral films, major motion pictures, incredibly expensive, both set in the same story, really, and they came out in the same year. There was asteroid hitting the Earth, so isn't it Armageddon, Deep Impact, something like that. I don't think I've ever seen any of these films, so brilliant example, William. But hundreds of millions of dollars spent on an idea that's exactly the same as the other one. Oh, A Bug's Life, and there's another one, Ants with a Z or something, again at the same time. I think that's bad for the makers of either of them because they put all that time, all that money in, and they are basically, they're instantly going to be compared. They're instantly going to lose some audience to the other, unless, you know, you're a nut for Gunfight at the OK Corral films, in which case you had a very good year. Things, even with those studios, those writers, those producers, directors, and even the cast working on this, all the PR for both of it, they didn't know about the other one and they came out at the same time. I mean, at some stage they obviously must have learned about the other and it was too late. They were committed to it. You sometimes get studios pushing films off for a year, kind of holding it for a bit, which is expensive, but also you then look like you ripped off the previous one, so what the hell, let's put them out and hope, that kind of thing. It happens at that level. It happens at the writing of a book level. The most likely thing is that it just someone else had the same idea as you. And what counts is how they did it, how you would do it. So most of the time, I mean incredibly most of the time, I mean, I want to say all of the time, but there's like legal reasons to prevent me going quite that far. Your idea has not been stolen and you need to just carry on writing something. I mean, I was just talking this week, somebody has read a book that's similar to the one they're working on, and they don't mean in plot, they don't mean it was theft, they don't mean, I mean, they're very practical about it. It's just a similar idea done in a similar way. So they're actually changing their book. And in that case, do you know, actually, I probably wouldn't. I'd carry on, because by the time the book's finished, by the time the book is published, the other one's long gone, probably. I mean, you're not deliberately setting out to copy someone, you're writing it the way you would write it. I would at least be tempted to just carry on, but I see the reasoning, I see the point, I see the disappointment as well for it. Okay, so I mentioned the legal things. It is possible to get ripped off and so on. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm going to say to you that it's very unlikely. I'm going to say to you that it's the writing you do that matters, and that if you write well enough, you can tend to get picked up like your manuscript as, or sometimes instead of your manuscript. Don't like this story, do like the way you wrote it. That, you get that from publishers quite a bit. What else have you got? Okay. Don't worry so much about theft and don't steal anything. There you go. Is there anything to argue in that? Definitely not on the stealing is bad bit, but I'm going to brace myself and say, let me know if you've had stories of things of yours being stolen. I just told you mine. Still burns 20 years later. But it's like once in decades of a career, and it was a ridiculous thing anyway. I'm unconcerned about this. What I'm concerned about is that we get on with our writing. That is all that matters. Stop worrying about anybody else. Get on with it. If you're in the States, there's a more, and you're writing scripts, there's a more regimented system where you can formally register your finished scripts. So not the ideas, but the scripts with the Writers Guild of America. There's all sorts of tricks I hear about posting yourself a registered copy of the script and all that. And if you want to do that, off you pop. I think America's still more litigious than the UK, so it may be more of an issue there. But really, always, anywhere, everywhere, get on with that bloody writing and do what happens next. I got quite strident there. I need a cup of tea. How about I'll go put the kettle on for us both. You start writing in the comments below and we'll have a proper chat about all of it. Okay? In the meantime, though, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself. Write more. Stop listening to me. No, wait, comment in the below and then stop commenting and listening to me and go write something. Okay?